battalion, at least a month. But a few daring men, specialists, led by you, could do it in one bold, swift stroke.
What we really need is an equalizer. A dynamiter. A man with a delicate touch to blow out a candle without putting a dent in the candle holder.
Philippine campaign, Cuba with Roosevelt's Rough Riders. Join Pancho Villa as weapons expert and tactician. Ex-cavalryman, cattle boss, wrangler, bullwhacker, packmaster. Specialist with rifle, rope, and longbow. Most dependable scout and tracker in the territory. Raza. Captain Jesus Raza. Jesus. What a name for the bloodiest cutthroat in Mexico.
That's a lot of woman there. Beautiful, classy, guts.
Go to hell.
Yes, ma'am. I'm on my way.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 9 of the Westerns for Life podcast. If this is your first time tuning in, this is where myself, Jeff, and Carlos get together and share our loves for all things Western, whether it's your classic, your spaghetti, or your modern day Western. For this episode, we're talking about the classic 1966 Western directed by Richard Brooks, The Professionals.
The plot.
It's essentially a rescue mission where wealthy rancher Ralph Bellamy uses his wealth to put together a team of 4 guys who are all experts within their field to go into Mexican territory and rescue his kidnapped wife, who's held at the clutches of Raza, played by Jack Palance.
The characters.
So this movie has an all-star cast, you could probably say a legendary cast, which is headed up by Burt Lancaster, who plays Bill Dulworth. There's a bit of a debate who's top billing, Burt Lancaster or Lee Marvin, but we're going to go by the IMDb listing and start with Burt Lancaster as Bill Dulworth, who plays a very charismatic character in this one, who is really, from what I'm reading, hell-bent on doing all his own stunts. Very, very interesting, a really lovable character, a bit of a ladies' man as well. So, Jeff, what do you think of Burt Lancaster as Bill Dulworth?
Yeah, I liked him in this movie a lot. Gotta be honest, I haven't seen him in all too many movies. There's a fair few I've seen of him, but I never sort of did a deep dive on his sort of filmography. So I would say the bulk of his movies I haven't seen yet, but I do know the name, of course. I know the actor. I know a handful of films he's been in. And yeah, I did really like him in this one. He came across very sort of likable, even though it sort of seemed like he had different motives, or his motives weren't in the right place and stuff like that. But you know, yeah, the character was good, well played. He certainly fitted the role, very well suited for a role. And yeah, I just enjoyed every time he popped up on screen, and every scene he was in, I thought he did a really, really good job. That's what I think of Burt Lancaster myself. How about you, Carlos?
Yeah, Burt Lancaster, great actor. To be honest, I've enjoyed everything that I've seen him in, the majority of the time, even early on in his career. I would say even there's a debate who was the star, the leading actor in this one. For me, it's Burt Lancaster because he's the more established actor. Lee Marvin in the 60s was kind of just coming into his own. But for me, Burt Lancaster, out of all the characters, he's my favourite in this one because he's kind of he's a bit of a ladies' man in this one, but at the same time, he's very handy. He's kind of like the dynamite hired hand in this one. I mean, yeah, great career that he's had in many westerns and Academy Award winner. Yeah, very fit guy as well. Dan, you did say that he was very very hands-on with a lot of the stunts. I always remembered him in his early movies, The Crimson Pirate and The Trapeze, which I think he was an acrobat before he was an actor, and he was always a very fit guy. And even for this movie, I think he's in his early 50s, and he's in amazing shape. And a movie, a few movies later, he done the movie The Swimmer, which he's in his mid-50s, and he does a lot of swimming in that, and he's in great shape for that. But great actor, Burt Lancaster. I've got quite a few of his westerns. Yeah, reliable, and he's always a great actor for me. I enjoyed him in this this movie. He was by far my favourite character, even though I do have more Lee Marvin movies in my collection. But I do like Lee Marvin as well. But Burt Lancaster, top-notch performance in this one.
Yeah, I'll just round that off on Burt Lancaster career. 5 decades, possibly. The last film I can recall seeing him in was Field of Dreams, of course, with Kevin Costner. Yeah, unbelievable.
Last movie, I think.
His last one. Yeah, just an absolute icon, screen legend. I think it's very, very versatile and one of them really likable actors. And no doubt we'll cover more westerns he's been in, because he's been in quite a lot of real top quality ones. We'll move on to another screen legend, a real favourite of mine, Lee Marvin as Henry Vardan. So yeah, an amazing actor from films like Point Break to Cat Ballou. Point Blank, should I say, to Cat Ballou. So Jeff, what do you think of Lee Marvin?
I was going to say Point Break was a little bit after his time, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, obviously we covered Lee Marvin on the episode we did on the Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, and pretty much said all I needed to say about Lee Marvin in there. But just to sort of repeat that a little bit. Yeah, I mean, I love Lee Marvin. Great actor, great on-screen presence. I definitely seen him in more movies than I did Burt Lancaster, as we were just discussing. A few did pop into my head that I have seen of Burt Lancaster, but I definitely have seen more of Lee Marvin's work. Probably, the Delta Force, Death Hunt, The Dirty Dozen, obviously, a few movies that spring to mind. Yeah, great actor, love him. And I think, once again in this film, he does a superb job. It's sort of I mean, for me, is because I love the A-Team so much, for me, this is sort of like a precursor to the Hannibal Smith character in the A-Team, the character he plays, obviously a gray-haired gentleman smoking cigars and stuff like that, being the leader. Reminded me a little bit of what was to come in the A-Team with George Peppard. Yeah, I love the character. I love, how he took charge and stuff. I thought he did a superb job once again. Top marks for Lee Marvin in this one, for me.
Agreed.
Lee Marvin, yeah, again, another great actor. I think the majority of the movies that I've seen from him are from the 60s onwards. I do need to see some of his ones in the 50s, where I think the majority of the time in the 50s, he always came out as a villain. But the 60s was definitely a decade. It was kind of like the turning point since The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance. I mean, great villain in that. And it's pretty evident when you see him as kind of like the main tactician to the gang. You can see why they chose him for the war classic, The Dirty Dozen, because again, it's a very similar sort of character that he plays in that. Always had that kind of commanding presence in movies. Tough guy. Great career. Shame that he probably, he died in his early 60s, and he was a bit of a drinker on the side. That probably kind of speeded towards his death. I mean, a lot of those sort of movie tough guys were heavy drinkers offset. But yeah, I mean, he's featured in many westerns, great action movies. Point Blank, probably one of my favourites. The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, and another Academy Award winner. I think a couple of years later, 2 years later, for the
Cat Ballou, wasn't it?
Cat Ballou, the comedic musical western, which is a really fun one. You could say that Lee Marvin was playing himself in that. Whether they were kind of serving him 3 bottles of booze offset or on set, because he played a drunken cowboy. But yeah, great actor. What can you say? I mean, he's star power when you see his name in the movie for sure, Lee Marvin. And one of those roles that you just kind of always associate with his career, Lee Marvin. Yeah, great performance.
Yeah, and what I'll just add to that, from watching the special features on the Blu-ray disc of this, apparently he was an absolute joy to be around on the set. Someone who didn't have to rehearse his lines, but he was always absolutely spot on, laughing and joking around the set, which was nice to see, because when you see a movie tough guy, sometimes you think that might translate to the actual real person, but apparently brilliant to be around. And now we move on to someone who, not in the film as much as I would like, and from reading led to believe he was a bit sick. He did sadly pass away quite at a young age, and it's Robert Ryan who plays Hans, who I think is an absolutely incredible character actor. Whether it's the good guy, the villain, I just think whatever film he's in, he slots in and you know what you're going to get. He is in one of my favourite westerns, real underrated gem called Day of the Outlaw, which I'd like to cover at some point. Brilliant actor, and for the time he's on screen, he's very, very convincing again. So Jeff, what do you reckon on Robert Ryan?
Robert Ryan, I agree. Great character actor, and definitely the majority of films I've seen him in were westerns for sure. I don't think I've seen him in a different genre. I think I've only seen western movies that he was in. Definitely Wild Bunch springs to mind. He was in that. Spaghetti Western, A Minute to Pray, A Second to Die. He was in that as well. Great character actor. Again, whenever he pops up, it just I don't know. It just always sort of screams authentic to me. It feels like he's a guy that should be in these movies. He has the face, he has the look, the presence for him. Once again, I don't know what to say. He did a really, really great job in this one. Again, like you said, I do wish he might have had a bit more screen time in the film. I did read up on the fact as well that he was sort of ill, behind the scenes, pretty sad. Yeah, he did pass away not too long after the film. Great character actor, and once again, he did a fantastic job in this one. Another great character that really, really feels right at home, along the other characters in this one, alongside the other characters, I should say. How about yourself, Carlos?
Yeah, I kind of thought Robert Ryan, he deserved a little bit more in this movie out of the 4 screen time. I mean, I don't know whether that was to do with his health issues, because I think he was a heavy smoker and he had lung cancer. I think he died in early 70s. I think, again, he was only 63. A lot of the movies I'd seen him in have kind of been westerns. He always played the tough guy. I remember him in The Naked Spur with James Stewart. The Wild Bunch is probably the one. He was part of that gang. Also, The Dirty Dozen. He's also in that one as well.
Yes.
Obviously,
about that.
He did go. It did sort of do, actually feature in the spaghetti western that Jeff just said, which is kind of a little bit unusual for kind of a well-established actor like himself. I think one of his last movies was actually with Lee Marvin, The Iceman Cometh. I think Dan, you might be familiar with that one.
With Lee Marvin.
Lee Marvin.
Yeah, I know there's a title by the same name as well, a Hong Kong film. But I can't picture the one you're referring to at the moment.
It's only early 70s movie, and so he's worked with Lee Marvin quite a few times. Obviously, this movie was a success. Obviously, we'll get into a lot more And as it always is in Hollywood, if there's a real successful movie and kind of well received, the talk of a sequel was there. But I think what I read up on their kind of schedules, it just didn't, because you had to have the original cast back, and they just could not get everybody's schedules to fit in for a sequel. But then I think when it did, I think in the early 70s, Robert Ryan was kind of in bad health. So that idea of a sequel kind of went out the window, obviously, when he passed away. But yeah, I would have liked to have seen him a little bit more in this one, because he's not in it as much as, the main other three in the gang. But credible actor, and very good in westerns. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I'm glad you brought up about the sequels. Reading up on that, it's one of them I've always thought as a kid, is there a sequel to this? But reading up, digging a bit deeper, they didn't want the kind of Magnificent Seven sequel effect where it was just a complete rapid downfall. So I'm quite happy they stuck with this.
Yeah.
We move on now to a guy that it propelled him, this film. And rightly so. I've always loved seeing him in his small parts, and it's Woody Strode as Jake Sharp. Just absolutely brilliant screen presence. Just looks the part. And he's that guy you'd want as a mate. He's always got your back. Real great in this. Some good stunts. Reading up about him being trained with his bow and arrow, which was amazing. But it was nice to kind of see this film again and see where he kind of got his real push, and he featured in quite a few spaghetti westerns and a few bigger parts, which was nice. So Jeff, Woody Strode, what do you think?
Yeah, Woody is another one of those legends we've already covered. Talked about it, in the Man Shall Liberty Valance episode. But yeah, once again, I'll just repeat my what I said about him. They are such an icon in these westerns. Always great to see. Again, has great screen presence, great sort of charisma. Strong, build guy, built like an ox. Guy, but underneath it, he's got a sweet side. He's got a sensitive side. Yeah, he's a great actor, and once again a great addition to this cast. I think actually I was actually watching the behind the scenes on the Blu-ray as well. I think Offset, where they were filming in a desert in Vegas, and I think Offset, him and Lee Marvin were actually using the bow and arrow to shoot at some of the neon signs there in Vegas when they were at the hotel room or something, which was quite funny. Yeah, no, I mean, everybody in this film, they seemed like they got along. They got, they had a great time on set and stuff, and even, Offset. You definitely feel like the sort of the camaraderie between them in this film. Yeah, Woody Strode, once again, a great addition to this cast. I wouldn't have this movie without him, really. He's always great to see. I wish, once again, he would have had a little bit more to do, or, more scenes to shine, but I think there were plenty there for sure. Yeah, love Woody Strode. And again, like you mentioned, he went on to even bigger parts when he got into the Italian westerns and stuff like that, and in the Euro crime movies and stuff in the 70s. Yeah, that's about it for me on Woody. What about yourself, Carlos?
Yeah, I mean, any sort of movie, kind of like a tough guy movie in that sort of period in the 60s and 70s, Woody Strode, you just got to have him for his physical presence. I think he was, like you say, we spoke about him before. He was an American football player.
Yeah.
So he's quite a built sort of guy. This movie, I'm glad it's kind of one of my favourite performances from him, because he gets to sort of be on screen a little bit more, and he's talking a lot more.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I mean, I always remember him in Spartacus. Obviously, he was in that again for his physical presence. Obviously, Once Upon a Time in the West, he's been in some real kind of big, iconic movie classics, and he had that quite decent career in the 70s. He was in demand with a lot of spaghetti westerns and Euro crime movies, just for his look. And I think his character, he's kind of like the tracker in this. It just fits his physical presence, so he really does look the part. There's nothing fake. I think a lot of the guys here, the main male leads, especially Marvin, Lancaster, Woody Strode, they did get very hands-on with some of the rough work and a few of the stunts. And again, I think Woody Strode, I think he was probably in his early 50s, but you wouldn't have thought that because he's such a well-built guy. He looked after himself and
very fit. Yeah,
you could say that was his main. A lot of the time, the main reason why he was used for a lot of the physical roles. But it's nice that he got quite a bit of a part in this, and he doesn't get to die in this one either as well.
yeah,
it kind of makes a change. So yeah, Woody Strode was good.
That's true. Yeah,
probably.
Yeah.
For me, I think he had a little bit more to do than actually Robert Ryan in this one.
yeah.
I could say he was like probably even though Robert Ryan's the bigger actor, I probably would say Woody Strode was like really the third sort of lead on screen time. But yeah, Woody
That's
Strode,
fair enough. Yeah,
reliable as always.
Yeah. A complete contrast to his part in a movie we covered in a previous episode, Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, where he plays John Wayne's kind of assistant, really, and he's not even allowed in the bar or the restaurant. That was the first time I see him, and then this was the second film I ever see of him as a kid, and it was like, wow, this guy must have done more to get a part like this. So that was amazing. And we'll briefly talk about the guy, the rich rancher, played by Ralph Bellamy, Joe Grant, who basically put up the money to get all these guys with amazing skills together to go and rescue his kidnapped wife. So yeah, been in plenty of films. It's seen in a lot of, for me, more bit parts I've seen him on. But Jeff, do you know much about Ralph Bellamy as an actor?
Yeah, not too much. I mean, obviously, I think everybody, the most famous role he's been in was in Trading Places with Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd, where he was one of the rich brothers. I think the other one was Don Amici, if I got that correctly. Where the Duke brothers, Duke and Duke, the two rich, the two asshole rich brothers. He was one of them. Yeah, that's definitely the role that stands out the most to me. In his career, I'm sure he's done other films. I'm sure I've seen his name pop up on movie credits, and he might have had a part here and there that I've watched, but just not too much that really springs to mind at this moment, other than Trading Places. Coming to America, he did reprise that role in the cameo in Coming to America as well. But other than that, not too much. However, in this film, as sort of, well, I'm not going to spoil it. In the role that he plays, I think he did a good job. Being one guy and then another guy the next minute, sort of. And that's where I'm going to leave it at. I think he played the role well. Is he the most interesting character in the film? Not really, but necessary for the movie, and definitely, once again, like I said, a well played part for him. So how about yourself, Carlos? What do you think of Ralph Bellamy? Yeah,
the first thing I remember his face in Trading Places, like you just said. I mean, he was scheming in that. Straight away you just recognise the face, and there's something not quite right. How somebody in their early 60s, they kind of kept secret to his wife, who's a lot younger, which you sort of think a woman literally half his age, something is not right there. So obviously, which is kind of a bit of a twist towards the end of the movie. But I mean, Ralph Bellamy, he's not in it a lot, mainly at the start and at the end.
Yeah.
One of them actors that I always see his name pop up, or his name I'm always familiar with. I know he was in the original Wolfman, which I've not seen for years, one of the Frankenstein movies. That's about it. But I thought he was okay. He was okay. He looked like the sly Texan sort of millionaire who kind of forms this group to get his wife back, which everything's revealed in the end. Thought he'd done a pretty good job considering in time, screen time, he didn't really have a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, he played the part okay.
Mhm. Yeah, I'll have to add to that. I think the twist to this film is still good. Wasn't really gonna say too much in the plot in the first place, but on the surface it's just you'd think a generic Western rescue mission with plenty of good action, but there is a good twist, which I do particularly always enjoy. So, as mentioned, the rich rancher's wife was kidnapped by the notorious Jack Palance character, Jesus Raza, and Jack Palance is just, for me, unbelievable. And I actually quite realise in this film that he's quite a big guy as well. Never really noticed that before. He does a Mexican accent absolutely brilliantly. And we spoke about Jack Palance at least once, so I'm not going to say too much other than I just genuinely think he is superb every single time. I've seen a lot of films with him in now. Great to see. So Jack Palance as Jesus Raza.
Yeah, once again, we did mention him on the Mercenary episode, which was our second episode, if memory serves. Again, what can I say? I mean, he's always, playing a great villain. Sometimes, the occasional good guy. What is his role in this film? I'm not going to spoil too much, but because again, there's a twist at the end, as we have discussed earlier. Jack Palance, Batman '89, Tango and Cash are some of the villain roles that sort of spring to mind. The Mercenary, of course, again, aforementioned, we discussed that one already. Love Jack Palance. I mean, even, in City Slickers and stuff where he won his Oscar for, and, I think at the time he was in his 80s, and up in the Oscar stage, he was doing the push-ups and stuff. That's an iconic Jack Palance moment that, always sort of sticks with you. I mean, he was in his 80s doing I don't know how many push-ups on stage and during the Oscars. He was a big guy. He was a fit guy right up until the final years of his life. Always a delight to see on screen. He has a great face. He's one of them faces that just sticks with you. Another great role that as I'm looking over at my Charles Bronson collection over there, Chados Land, he's in that one as well. Another great role. Another great Western, I should add. That's one we should cover. Love Jack Palance. Nothing really further to add for me on this one. Move it over to you, Carlos.
Yeah, Jack Palance, great actor. Another Academy Award winner. I mean, what Jeff says there, always credible. Mainly, career playing strong villains. This one, it's not the strongest and worst villain he's played, but we won't give too many spoilers away. I mean, Dan did sort of pick up on his Spanish was pretty good. I was quite surprised how well the Spanish dialogue was pretty nailed on. I thought he was an American actor, but he was quite a few of those sort of old school time actors like Kirk Douglas and Charles Bronson. They were kind of Ukraine, Lithuanian actors who came over to the US, and obviously he changed his name. I mean, I think his real name was Vladimir something. So he was, he was Ukraine parents, Ukraine immigrants. But I mean, he's kind of one of them hardened faces that we see on screen, and you've got to have him as a villain, which I think he served in the US Army as a pilot, which I think he had a crash, and I think he had surgery done on his face. That's why he's kind of got that sort of slender, kind of gaunt look. I suppose that kind of added, to his, him being hired, because he's got that real look of a villain. Long career. I think he passed away in his mid-80s or even late 80s, but well deserving of him getting that City Slickers best supporting actor. Always reliable. I always like watching him in movies. Fine actor, Jack Palance.
Yeah, agreed.
Women of the West.
That brings us on to Women of the West. We do have two women in this. The first one we're going to cover, for me, just absolutely simply the best. She is Claudia Cardinale as Maria, or Maria, should I say. Just
that's another one.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love
I
Claudia.
can't. Every time I see her, I just can't think of anyone more beautiful. Honestly, she's just absolutely gorgeous in this film, and it is some very early nudity, even though it's kind of a rear to side shot. It'd be nice for a little more, but wow, she's unbelievable. Yeah. She really and she's still alive in her later 80s, but
she's still
in her
kicking,
day.
Still alive,
Honestly, for anyone who hasn't seen Claudia Cardinale, Once Upon a Time in the West, she looks great in this. She looks even better. I'd be all day talking about Claudia Cardinale. What can you add, Jeff?
I mean, what can I say that, just pulling up her picture doesn't say?
Strong female character as well in this one.
Yeah, strong female character, strong, nice attributes. Strong female character. I'm kidding, of course. No, I mean, she's terrific. Like yourself, I mean, I consider her one of the most beautiful women ever in movies and that stuff. Once Upon a Time in the West, this one, I mean, what a delight to see on screen. I would prefer the Once Upon a Time in the West role for me, but in this one is another great role for her, and once again, she does play well. I think, as opposed to Once Upon a Time in the West, she does have a real voice in this one when she speaks, because I think she's dubbed in Once Upon a Time.
Great voice, I've got to add.
Yeah, I do like that. That they actually have a real voice for this one on the audio track. It does match with her. Great voice, great looking woman, and she does a superb job in this one as Maria. Yeah, I liked her a lot. How about you, Carlos?
Oh, very eye-catching indeed. I mean, I have her in my top 10 favourite sort of movie actresses, looks-wise. I mean, I think as the movie went along, she got more eye-catching and stunning to look. I think, early on in the movie, I think she comes into the movie around about the 45-minute mark.
You have to wait.
The last half, you really see her. I mean, when you do see her, obviously you think, well, I think she was in her late 20s or early 30s. A woman sort of half the age of Ralph Bellamy's character, Joe Grant. Something's not right here. What's going on? Which you find out towards the end of the movie. I mean, like I say, when she's wearing that brown top, she looks really nice. But I think when a little bit later on in the movie, when she's wearing the blue top, I think she even looks even better looking. And it's like she's getting more tanned as the movie goes along. And wow. I mean, probably one of the main sort of line in this movie, because there's quite a lot of famous quotes and sort of one-liners in this movie. A few of them from Burt Lancaster is involving her, which is one of my favourite. But stunning woman. Obviously, most people would remember her in Once Upon a Time in the West. To look at, I think she's better in this one. But I think in Once Upon a Time in the West, that is a better performance, because she's literally, the movie involves her from sort of all angles. But good to see her with her real voice. Her Spanish type accent wasn't perfect for me. Obviously, she's an Italian actress, so the Italian and the Spanish accents are a little bit,
I
You
think
can tell.
originally she was born in Tunisia, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, okay.
Tunisian, yeah.
Yeah, but I think she spoke quite a few languages. But I think I thought her
Yeah.
accent was just a little bit off. But you know, it's her looks that's going to catch us more rather than her accent. That's for sure. And she certainly did do that.
Definitely. What I've got to say here on this podcast, if there's a beautiful woman, we've got to say it. We're not going to beat around the bush, as we know some people don't like kind of can't think of the right word, but yeah, she is a goddess. That's no understatement, in my opinion. I want to move on to someone else who's always caught my eye, which you two probably know why. Say her name probably, Chiquita, which Burt Lancaster's actually mentioning her when she's dancing around a posse of Mexicans in kind of the Mexican Raza's Mexican base, and then you think maybe, oh, that's all she's going to be in, and then she actually saddles up with them later on in the film and does a really good job. So yeah, Maria Gomez plays Chiquita, and I know she was really desperate to get this role by watching the extras. Comes across as a real likable person, actually. So Jeff, what do you reckon, Maria Gomez as Chiquita?
Yeah, I agree with that. When I was watching the sort of behind the scenes, the featurettes and the documentaries and stuff that is present on the Blu-ray, yeah, she was one of the people interviewed. Yeah, she really did come across as a very likable person and stuff. And yeah, again, I mean, looks-wise, I might not put her on the level of Claudia, but another fine, looking woman, fine addition, female addition to the cast. Yeah, it does seem at first like she's not really going anywhere with the role. It seems like a small part, but it does turn into a bit of a bigger part, and really, towards her final sort of scenes within the film. Again, I'm not going to spoil too much, but I did like her sort of, her ending in the film, her last scenes. I thought those were really good. Yeah, it's implied that there's a history with her and Burt Lancaster and stuff, and I thought that was a interesting bit of the story as well. So yeah, Maria Gomez, I liked her, and yeah, again another great addition for this. Well, pretty much all-star cast at this point. I love pretty much all these actors, but yeah. How about yourself, Carlos?
I don't think I've seen a lot of her. The face looks familiar, but yeah, she added to the mix a little bit as kind of Burt Lancaster's old flame, part of the revolution. But yeah, she was okay for the limited amount of time that she was on it, which is a bit of a key moment to her last kind of bit of screen time on this one. Yeah, so she plays quite a bit of an important scene or two. But yeah, role picked perfectly for her.
Yeah. So that's all the main cast we've covered, quite a lot of them. So we spent quite a while on that segment, but some absolute legends there. We move on to the director, who's a multi-time nominated director in Richard Brooks.
Behind the camera.
Also a screenwriter as well. Now, I know Richard Brooks mainly as director of one of my favourite drama sort of adaptation pieces, Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, for obvious reasons. I'm a huge Paul Newman fan. Has another absolutely gorgeous lady in it, and is Elizabeth Taylor. But yeah, I won't speak too much about that film, but it's a very good one. So, Jeff, you familiar with much of his other work?
Yeah, I think only one other. I haven't seen that one that you just mentioned with Paul Newman. That's the one I need to check out. He's done one, which it really isn't a good film, but he did Wrong is Right with Sean Connery, and I think Leslie Nielsen was even in that one. I'm not a big Leslie Nielsen fan, so that might be why I didn't like the film. But yeah, the plot of that film was really all over the place and sort of convoluted. Also known as The Man with a Deadly Lens, they sort of try to cash in on Bond, to sort of try to give it a Bond sort of title, Bond-esque title. Yeah, that really wasn't a good one. Other than that, I've sort of looked over his filmography. Titles I recognize but haven't seen. So that's the majority of his films. For me, like I recognize the names and the titles, but I haven't seen much of him. Commenting on his directing skills for this film, though, I think he did a superb job with this one. It's shot very well. There's some nice, shots in there. The action is very well handled, with camera placement, all that good stuff. Yeah, as a Western director, just judging his directing skills for this movie, this Western, I think he did a fine job for this one. The film is well directed. The pacing all throughout is great as well. Again, that could be a tribute to the editing as well, but we can get to that when we get the good points and bad points. But no, I can't fault the directing in this one. I think Richard Brooks, did a good job with this one. For this, yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah, I thought he'd done a fantastic job for this movie, and it's got to be said, this movie was nominated for 3 Academy Awards. I think Best Director, Best Screenplay, and Best Cinematography. Yeah,
which is rare for a Western to get nominated.
Yeah,
but
I mean, I thought this movie is stunningly and beautifully shot. Let's make that crystal clear. Yeah, Richard Brooks. What I have seen of him, like Dan, I've seen a Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, Paul Newman and Elizabeth Taylor, many years ago. Also know he done a Western in the 70s with Gene Hackman and James Coburn, Bite the Bullet, which that's one I need to revisit.
Yeah, that sounds interesting, that one. Yeah.
But I know he'd done quite a bit of work with Burt Lancaster before, because I think he was a screenwriter before he directed his first movie. I think he was the screenwriter of Brute Force and the original movie The Killers with Burt Lancaster, which Lee Marvin starred in the remake in the 60s. But yeah, I mean, another award winner, because he was the best director for his movie in the 1960 Elmer Gantry, which Burt Lancaster got the best actor in that. So obviously Richard Brooks has done considerable work together with Burt Lancaster before, which obviously he brought the best out of him in this movie. So yeah, credible director.
Yeah, agree. It brings us on to the score of this film.
The music.
Which for me is one of them scores that you kind of recognise the theme, but at the same time it's not a score I particularly want to own, like Once Upon a Time in the West or a Morricone score, to be honest. But it's a recognisable one. How about yourself, Jeff?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not on the level of a Once Upon a Time in the West or the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly sort of soundtrack. I do like the soundtrack. I like especially the main theme. It's sort of maybe reminiscent a bit of the Magnificent Seven theme for me. Did have sort of similar sort of cues in there, which isn't a bad thing because that's an awesome theme. As similarly, this one is I thought it was pretty cool. It sort of stuck with me after I watched the film. Should say we always do try to watch these films right before we record these podcasts. So actually, the theme is still stuck in my head as we speak. Actually. But yeah, no, I like the theme. I like the soundtrack. I don't know at the moment who composed it. Let me just quickly cheat. Is it on here? Oh, Maurice Jarre. Yeah. Respectable composer. Definitely know him, know his work. He did a lot of great scores. Yeah, I think he did a great job with this one. Is it one of my favorite Maurice Jarre scores? Maybe it's up there. Maybe. I think there's a few more I like a bit more over this one, but yeah, again, great. Especially the main theme is really great when it comes in. You're in for a cool ride. At the opening scene, you're in for a cool adventure with these characters. Yeah, I like the score. I like the score. How about you, Carlos?
It's okay for me. I think it does try to be too much like the Magnificent Seven. Yeah, I mean it's catchy, but not as well known as something like the Magnificent Seven. Yeah, passable one for me. Sorry to say.
Fair enough.
Yeah. I'll go along with that. now we get on to kind of some of our favourite scenes and quotes.
Favorite scenes.
So a lot of memorable scenes in this, and a lot of memorable quotes. And something you said earlier, I may think I'm going to say the quote you might possibly say, Carlos, but I'm going to stick with one scene in particular, which isn't the most action-packed, but it's the standoff between Burt Lancaster and Jack Palance, because you can just feel it's going on for hours and hours. I just think there's some really good dialogue exchange, and you can see that mutual respect. That's a particular scene I really enjoy. You really see their kind of human side. This probably might surprise people when there's plenty of action scenes. And a quote, every time I hear it, it just always makes me laugh. It's where Claudia Cardinale goes to Burt Lancaster, "Go to hell," and he gets up and he just goes, "I'm going." That's just always,
yes,
always,
yeah.
yeah. And
Yeah.
there's another one, always, I'll chuck it in there as well, where Burt Lancaster's dealing with a dynamite and he's talking through Wyatt's basically sweating, and forget who says it, but I don't know who's sweating, me or the dynamite more. I just always like that. But there's loads and loads of quotes in this. What's some of your favourite scenes and quotes, Jeff?
Well, quotes is another one from Lancaster regarding Cardinale, where he says, "That's a whole lot of woman," or something like that. I did like that quote, that line. Actually, scene the one that you picked is pretty much the one that I would say is my favorite of the film. I did really like that whole scene, with Lancaster versus Jack Palance. That whole standoff there in that little sort of, what was it, canyon with the rocks and everything. Yeah, I really like that, the setting and how it was shot and everything. That's definitely the scene I would pick as my favorite. If I had to pick some others as backup, I mean, it might be cheating, but any scene with Claudia would be a favorite. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, especially the scenes with Claudia Cardinale and Burt Lancaster. Do you want me? Well, I might say yes now, but later I might say no. Yeah, that scene, I remember that one. Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, obviously you can go for an action scene as well. There's great action scenes in this film, great shootouts and stuff. And again, it's just a great adventure film all the way through, with some cool little set pieces thrown in there. Yeah, those would be some of my favorites. I could go on and on, obviously, but I don't want to hog the air for too long, so just bring it over to Carlos.
Yeah, I mean, there's some cool action scenes in this. For me, Burt Lancaster and Lee Marvin have some of the best one-liners and quotes in this movie. I think one of my favourite scenes is when they take out, on their journey through the Mexican border, they take out 10 Mexicans. And then a little bit later on, Burt Lancaster, he kind of gets strung up by these 3 Mexicans, and they kind of hung him upside down. And they're sort of asking him, why is he here? And he said, "Oh, because I love the liquor and I love your women," which got a chuckle out of me on that one. There's also a good scene with when I think Robert Ryan's character, Hans, I think he's shot in the shoulder, and Claudia Cardinale Maria's kind of nursing his wound, and she's kind of got this top where she's leaning forward, and Robert Ryan and Burt Lancaster's characters, they catch a sneak peek, and Burt Lancaster sort of says, "What's a woman like you worth $100,000?" And she just looks at him and says, "Oh, go to hell." I thought that was quite good. Also, when Lee Marvin does rescue Burt Lancaster as he's kind of strung up by these Mexicans, he says, "You're getting into a habit of getting caught with your pants down. It's not very dignifying." And that also brought a chuckle out of me as well. So yeah, I think a lot of the fun scenes, Burt Lancaster, you can tell he had a lot of fun doing some of the scenes. But then I'm hearing offset, there was a little bit of an ego clash with Lee Marvin and Burt Lancaster. But yeah, they're some of my favourite scenes.
Yeah, some great ones there.
The Review Roundup.
It brings us on to sort of the good and potentially bad points of this film, and I'll just start now and say I've got no bad points. I think this is a very entertaining, pretty action-packed western with just spot-on pacing. I think it's just under 2 hours, and this is one I watched at a young age, continue to watch to this day, and it's one that never bores me. It's just highly entertaining with a lot of interesting characters. Strong woman of the West, strong villain. I really couldn't fault it. I'm not going to grade it as kind of a 10 like certain other westerns, but I can't fault it nevertheless. How about you, Jeff?
Yeah, I'm actually very similar to yourself. I think actually our final score will be pretty similar as well. I pretty much love everything about this film. I'd seen it a few years ago for the first time. And then when you suggested it for the podcast, I did actually track down this Blu-ray copy, and I got it finally in physical. And I actually did watch it twice in the last sort of week and a half. I watched it not the last weekend, but the week before that. And then obviously I watched it last night for this episode again. So that's pretty much my third time watching it. I mean, every time I love it more and more. I can easily see myself rewatching it once again in a month's time or 2 months' time, whatever. It is an entertaining one, rewatchable for me for sure. Great pacing, great cast. Again, well directed as we discussed. Music score, although not a god tier level music score, not a legendary music score, but still serviceable enough and a catchy main theme. I think this is a thrill ride that will keep anyone entertained, for the duration. What is it, about 2 hours? Just under maybe?
Over.
Yeah. Or just over? Yeah. Again, it doesn't bore for a second, in my opinion. It has a great pace. I think it will keep anyone entertained. So people that haven't seen it, it is highly recommended. I love it. I mean, I'll probably... Are we doing our ratings yet, or do we save that for next round?
Do it.
Yeah.
All right, yeah. So my rating would probably be 8.5 cowboy hats out of 10.
Okay.
For me, I really love it.
Good points and bad points. The good points is the cast, and wow, what a great cast of actors and actresses. It's beautifully shot. It's a stunning movie to look at with the widescreen shots and also the close-ups with Claudia, obviously. And she does get more eye-catching as the movie does go on. She gets more tanned and she gets a little bit more revealing. But yeah, I mean, it's a Western. For me, it's not quite top tier because it tries a little bit to be like the Magnificent Seven, but not quite getting there. At the same time, The Wild Bunch came out a couple of years later. If it had a bit more of a more violent sort of tone, it might have done it for me. I would have loved to have seen a little bit more of Jack Palance, if I'm really, really honest. First couple of times when I watched this, the ending kind of was like, oh, well, it wasn't, all that killing. What was it worth, all that, without giving the ending away? Obviously, Burt Lancaster does come out with another great line, I'm a sucker for love, which is kind of one of the final scenes in the movie without giving it away, why there was a bit of a twist and it kind of ended the way it did. But yeah, I mean, it's for a newcomer to Westerns, I think this is a good one to watch because the pacing's very good. There's a lot of action in this and some great stunning scenes because I think they shot some quite a few of the canyon scenes in Nevada, just outside Las Vegas. And I think Claudia Cardinale actually, the stunt woman for that scene with the dynamite that blows in between the canyon,
She did that, actually, I think, yeah.
She actually did it because I think the stunt double got injured, and I think Claudia Cardinale had to do that scene, and I think she wasn't that confident on horses. So great to her, I mean, full respect. I mean, she is a classy actress, and she really did pull through in this movie. Great movie. Obviously with the two main leads, again, they had a bit of a sort of ego clash offset, I think, with Lee Marvin's kind of drunken behavior, because Las Vegas was just around the corner where they were filming. And Burt Lancaster, quite professional as he was. So I think the two of them did clash, which, again, who gets the rights as the main lead? But then a movie with this sort of star power, you're always going to get that clash of sort of movie personalities. But yeah, very, very good movie. I would give this a very strong 7.5 cowboy hats. It is one that does grow on me a lot more because of the ending, which I thought the ending was a little bit pointless. But the more I watch it, I kind of realise the relationship between Jack Palance, his character, and Claudia Cardinale's character was a little bit more deeper, as we find out towards the end of the movie. Yeah, 7.5 cowboy hats out of 10.
And as I didn't give my rating, I was waiting for you two to do yours. Mine is absolutely spot on with yours, Jeff. 8.5. So I couldn't fault it, but just thinking of other potential westerns we'll be reviewing, I can't go scoring it a 9, 9.5, or 10. It is one of my all-time favourite westerns. It's just really sheer entertainment throughout, and you're both right. For a newcomer, it's definitely one to start with. Family friendly as well as a PG, and we want to show our releases of it. Unfortunately,
I think
older Blu-ray release here in the UK.
We have the same one. Yeah, same one for Dan.
So
same one
it's
for
good,
me.
good transfer.
And Carlos, you have a different one there, yeah.
I think the good thing about this release, I think you guys are the same. You actually do get a couple of featurettes and the making of, which is really, really good to see. Because for an old sort of Western from the 60s, we don't tend to get many sort of clips, so you can see them sort of during the filming. So that was really good to see, and to hear a few of the actors. I think this one's, you get like a little bit of an interview with Burt Lancaster's daughter, on a little bit about his career.
Nice little picture on the inside as well. I should.
Portrait of Lancaster.
The reason why this one probably did not kind of got more than 7.5. I actually watched this movie a lot more later than probably you, Dan. I don't know why that is. Maybe that's got a little bit kind of dented my rate. I mean, 7.5 is still a very good rating, and
but definitely, as you say, then if you've watched movies like The Wild Bunch and some of the spaghetti westerns before this, you'd think it's quite tamed. That's why I say it's family friendly. Watch it with your partner or kids.
That's how I kind of rated it, because obviously Magnificent Seven, I gave that 8.5. And The Wild Bunch, which came a couple of years after, I rated that one I would rate that one a little bit more than that. I think probably the violence just kind of swings it for me, but the star power in this one was probably better than The Wild Bunch for me. But then, it's a very good Western. It's a very good Western. But I think that
what I will say is that Blu-ray, even though it's one of the first Blu-rays released in the UK, it's still a fine transfer. And them added features are very good, but it definitely deserves a even better release. I think, especially now when we're seeing like Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid come out, I think they should delve back with westerns like this and a label pick it up, because you're talking legends, and there's certain documentary pieces you could put on for each of them screen legends on there.
Yeah. I should also add for European viewers. I mean, obviously myself, I'm European. There are also more sort of language options on this one. I mean, if you're from the Netherlands like myself, there's Dutch subtitles on this one, which I can watch movies without subtitles these days because obviously I do a lot of this YouTube stuff. I pretty much know English fluently by this point. But I mean, if you are in the Netherlands, you have Dutch subtitles. There's German on there, French, all that kind of stuff. So it is a good release, also language-wise for multiple regions. So
region 3, yeah.
It's region 3 as well, yeah.
A very, very good Western. I mean, the action's is high quality and it's top notch. It really is.
So that's our discussion / review on the 1966 Western, The Professionals. So for our next episode is a special, as it's a 10th, bit of a milestone. So Jeff, you have picked the film for this one. Do you want to reveal what it is?
Yes, as we are moving to our 10th episode, which is hard to believe, guys, that we've already shot 9 of these episodes by this point. We're going into our 10th. I think that's the point. I've read somewhere that when you do a podcast and you make it, beyond 10 episodes, you're really establishing stuff and you really got something going. I mean, I've read somewhere that a lot of podcasts, they quit before, the 10th episode. The 10th episode supposedly is a very important one when you do a podcast. I read that somewhere. But as we are, approaching a milestone sort of episode, we are planning a really, sort of special one, tying in with a special sort of anniversary for a milestone, Western, and we're going to reveal which one it is. We also will be planning on bringing in a special guest for it, which I might announce after I announce the title of the film. But no, the film we picked is celebrating its 60th anniversary this year. It is the immortal Sergio Leone 1964 classic spaghetti western with Clint Eastwood. It's A Fistful of Dollars. Ignore the German title, but this is the film, of course, with Clint. Celebrating its 60th anniversary, and we are, we want to bring in a special guest, great guy within the YouTube movie collecting and movie loving community. Mike from Mike's DVD and Blu-ray collection. We have opened it up to him, and hopefully he will be able to join us when we do that episode for our special celebration on A Fistful of Dollars. So that's going to be our next episode. It's going to be 1964's A Fistful of Dollars.
Awesome. Yeah, great one. Yeah. So thanks for watching or listening, everyone. And if you are listening, Jeff, we're on Spotify and where else?
Spotify and pretty much every other platform you can find your podcasts. Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, stuff like that. I should mention at this point on Spotify we should be available now on video form, so you can also see our mugs on Spotify if you open the app, and also listen, of course, still when you're on the go. It's a new function I sort of discovered recently, and I was like, let's put all our episodes into video form like it is on YouTube. So when you're listening, I mean, obviously you can still hear us and everything. When you open the app, you can actually see us in the flash now on Spotify. So that's where you can find us.
Yeah, brilliant. So thanks for watching / listening, everyone. Until the next time, see you all soon.
Westerns for life.
Westerns for life, amigos.
How long since you had a woman?
Would it make any difference?
You want me? My price is high.
I might say yes now, and later no.
To die for money is foolish.
To die for a woman is more foolish. Any woman.